Hi everyone, my name is Remy and my pronouns are he, they. In this no panic video, I will be going over tips and tricks on how to manage anxiety around coming out. I will also briefly introduce how inviting in may be an overall less stressful way of thinking about coming out as LGBT going forward. In this video, I will cover what it means to come out, why coming out is useful and significant, what is meant by coming out anxiety, tips for managing said anxiety, and explain what inviting in means and why it can be more proactive in reducing anxiety. So what is coming out? Coming out is when an LGBT person shares their identity with someone else, like a friend, family member, colleague, partner, etc. They often explain their identity and answer any questions the other person might have, like how or when they figured this out. Coming out is usually a lot less simple than it seems in media. It is often a process. You might have to repeat yourself a lot to lots of different people, and you might have to come out as different things over time. I personally came out 6 times as different things. So it's definitely not a linear, like, one and done, and that's all you ever have to do, unfortunately. What is coming out anxiety? Anxiety around coming out is tied to a lot of complex fears of rejection and shame, both internal and external. It is often chronic and much more difficult to distract from than other general forms of anxiety. Coming out often necessitates an extensive interrogation of yourself beforehand, which can be incredibly stressful and destabilizing. It can also stem from intrusive questioning of who you are as a person and where you belong in society. It is almost universal to feel anxiety around coming out, and it is very normal to not want to do it at all, even if you are in a healthy and accepting environment. And obviously, there's a big disclaimer here that it's not always safe to come out. If you're in an unaccepting environment and your housing or your income is dependent on someone who might react badly, it is your call whether or not it's best to disclose that with them. You don't have to do it at any point. It's not required, so keep that in mind. Coming out is seen as a desirable goal for some, though, because concealment can take a heavy toll. Suppressing these feelings entirely is incredibly stressful and can worsen a sense of cognitive distortion, particularly around your own identity. Basically, it creates a distortion between who you think you should be, or your ideal self, and who you actually are, or your real self. It can generate a sense of freedom, self-acceptance, and finding community in coming out. To be loud and proud to assert one's existence against a silencing or a denial of that existence. So some key tips to manage anxiety around coming out. Don't bottle up your feelings. Even if you don't tell anyone, suppressing your feelings around your gender or sexuality and the anxiety around it will only result in more overwhelm. Confiding in a journal, text message chain with yourself, or the like can be helpful. You can also practice coming out in low-stakes environments online with, like, online chats for LGBT+ people. If you're a young person, Childline's message boards or one-to-one counsellor chats can act as an anonymous and temporary place to come out where your family would not be able to see it. Mermaids also has a similar thing for young people, and that's a specifically trans charity if you wanted to do so for your gender identity specifically. Mermaids is not just a charity for young people though, as a side note. They also offer resources for parents, teachers and the like. So if you are a trans person, particularly a young trans person, and you don't know how to explore your identity, or you don't know how to explain it to other people, that's a good place to start. If you're an adult, you can use helplines and chat services to come out in a supportive environment that may make it seem less daunting, or just as a practice for the real thing. For instance, there's No Panic's own support chat and helpline. The helpline 0300 772 9844 is open from 10 AM till 10 PM every day of the year. The anxiety support chat is open Monday evenings from 8 till 9. You just need to be a member to join. There is also the LGBT+ switchboard, and check their website for availabilities whenever you're wanting to contact them, but they have the option to call, email, or chat with them. In terms of when you can feel the rising panic in preparation for coming out or anxiety beforehand, it is important to practice calming exercises. For instance, you can try the no panic breathing exercise. Breathe in from the diaphragm. In, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4. You can also use distraction techniques to relax yourself beforehand, such as a brief exercise, drawing. This can be especially useful to think about how you'd like to express your gender, watching a film, particularly an LGBT+ film, having a nice bath, or listening to some loud music. You can also use grounding techniques such as the FIRE method to ground yourself, which is when you name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Remember, it is important to give the feelings time to pass. Trying to force them away will only worsen your situation. The feeling is only temporary, and the panic attack will not harm you afterwards. You also do not need to come out in an in-person, face-to-face conversation. If this is frightening, you can come out to someone over the phone, by text, or in a letter. Gentle prodding to subtly gauge a person's position on the subject may also be helpful. You can do this by subtly introducing conversation about LGBT topics to them, like mentioning a policy or law that can affect LGBT+ people, commenting on a book you're reading by an LGBT+ author to them, mentioning that a friend has come out to you, and other such things. Remember that their initial reaction to things may change. This can be a way of, in the long term, making them more comfortable with the subject and making it so that the conversation where you come out to them is less daunting for you and less unexpected for them. You can also prepare answers. You won't be able to come up with answers to every question that you might be asked, obviously, but it might help you to feel more prepared and to avoid awkward questions. For instance, the question, why did you choose to be like this? You could maybe answer something like, you don't choose to be queer or trans. I'm just choosing to be open and tell you about it. If somebody asks you, do you plan on getting the surgeries? You might answer with something like, that's a very personal medical decision. And if someone asks you, how do you know if you're gay if you haven't tried dating someone of the opposite gender yet? You might answer something like, how do you know that you're not gay if you haven't tried dating someone of the same gender yet? To show that that's a bit of a silly question that you would not ask a straight person if they were talking about their sexuality to you. These are just a few examples. Feel free to share some of your own questions and answers in the comments. Lastly, for those who want to facilitate a more supportive, inclusive, and less stressful environment for coming out, thinking of it as inviting in might be more helpful. So what does this mean? It is a method of disclosing identity that centres the personal agency of the LGBT+ person in question, and it also removes some of the burden of explanation and education from them, because it is more about the work that the person who wishes to be invited in does to construct a welcoming environment. It reduces anxiety in the sense that there is less pressure put onto the person coming out to manage the entire situation, and it's done more at their comfort rather than trying to preempt and predict the comfort of those around you. It is considering the idea that being privately queer and not planning on sharing it is a just as valid way of being queer. I hope LGBT people who needed advice on coming out will find this video helpful and have better strategies for managing and reducing anxiety around this issue. And I hope allies have something to think about in terms of creating a more welcoming environment for any LGBT+ people in their life. If you want more details on methods for managing general anxiety, check out the other videos on this account and the resources on the No Panic website. Thank you.